Hello dear students, I am Sanju Hazadi, Assistant Professor of English at Government College Ratangad. This is introductory session of Philip Larkin's poem Going. This poem is included in BA Part 2nd paper first by Maharaja Ganga Singh University Bikaner. So first of all, introduction of the poet, and poet is Philip Larkin. Philip Larkin means full name was Philip Arthur Larkin, was born on August 9, 1922 in Coventry. He was the second child and only son of Sidney and Eva Larkin. Sidney Larkin was city treasurer between the years 1922 to 1944. Larkin's sister, some 10 years his senior, was called Catherine but was known as Kitty. He attended the city's King Henry VIII School between 1930 and 1940 and made regular contributions to the school magazine, the Coventrian. School magazine's name was the Coventrian, which between 1939 and 1940 he also helped to edit. After leaving King Henry VIII, he went to St. John's College, Oxford, and despite the war, Larkin had failed his army medical because of his poor eyesight, was able to complete his degree without interruption, graduating in 1943 with first class honours in English. His closest friends at Oxford were Kingsley Amis and Bruce Montgomery. The first of his poems to be published in a national weekly was Ultimatum, which appeared in the Listener, November 28, 1940. Then in June 1943, three of his poems were published in Oxford Poetry, 1942-1943. These were A Stone Church Damaged by a Bomb, Mythological Introduction, and I Dreamed of an Outthrust Arm of Land. After graduating, Larkin lived with his parents for a while before being appointed librarian at Wellington, Shropshire in November of 1943. He studied to qualify as a professional librarian but continued to write and publish. In 1945, 10 of his poems, which later that year would be included in the North Ship, appeared in Poetry from Oxford in wartime. Two novels, Jill and A Girl in Winter, were published in 1946 and 1947 respectively. In 1946, Larkin became assistant librarian at the University College of Leicester. He completed his professional studies and became an associate of the Library Association in 1949. In October 1950, he became sub-librarian at Queen's University, Belfast. It was in Belfast that he applied fresh vigor to his poetry activities, and in 1951 he had a small collection, X poems means 20 poems, privately printed in an edition of 100 copies. Also in 1954, the Fantasy Press published a pamphlet containing 5 of his poems. The Marvel Press, based in Hessel, near Hull, published Thoughts and Poetry of Departures in Listen. It would be the Marvel Press that published his next collection, The Less Received. It was during the years 1961-71 that Larkin contributed monthly reviews of jazz recordings for the Daily Telegraph, and these reviews were brought together and published in 1970 under the title All Vote Jazz, a record diary 1961 to 1968. He also edited the Oxford Book of 20th Century English Verse, which was published in 1973. His last collection, High Windows, was published in 1974, and it was popular collection, and confirmed him as one of the finest poets in English literary history. Obed, his last great poem, was published in the Times Literary Supplement in December 1977. If this had been the only poem Larkin had ever written, his place in English poetry would still be secure. A collection of his essays, he also wrote essays and reviews, was published in November 1983 as Required Writing, Miscellaneous Pieces 1955 to 1982, and won the W.H. Smith Literary Award for 1984. Larkin received many awards in recognition of his writing, especially in his later years. In 1975, he was awarded the CBE and in 1976 was given the German Shakespeare Prize. He chaired the Booker Prize panel in 1977, was made Companion of Literature in 1978, and served on the Literature panel of the Arts between 1980 and 1982. He was made an honorary fellow of the Library Association in 1980. In 1982, the University of Hull made him a professor. In 1984, he received an honorary D.Litt from Oxford University and was elected to the board of the British Library. In December of 1984, he was offered the chance to succeed Sir John Badesman as poet laureate, but declined, being unwilling to accept the high public profile and associated media attention of the position. In mid-1985, Larkin was admitted to hospital with an illness in his throat, and on June 11, an operation was carried out to remove his esophagus. His health was deteriorating, and when he was awarded the much-prized Order of the Companion of Honor, he was unable, because of ill health, to attend the investiture, which was due to take place at Buckingham Palace on November 25. He received the official notification courtesy of the Royal Mail. So, it was the introduction of the poet, and now summary of the poem. And our today's poem is Going by Philip Larkin. Going by Philip Larkin is a short 10-line poem. It is a very short poem, 10-line poem that is separated into 3 sets of 3 lines and one final single line. The lines vary greatly in length and do not maintain any sort of rhyme scheme. There is a similarity in the fact that each tercet means 3 lines is made up of one complete phrase. The only end line punctuation appears at the end of the third line of each stanza. The poem was originally published in 1955 in Larkin's book The Less Deceived. Larkin originally planned to title the work Dying Day. This piece of information makes it even clearer that the work is about death. Interestingly, death is not mentioned by name throughout the 10 lines. Instead, it is referred to peripherally, such as in line 3. In this instance, Larkin refers to it as that which lights no lamps. By the end of the poem, one has entered into the unstoppable evening and come to the understanding that there is no way to fend off its arrival. The poem begins with the speaker taking note of a particularly dark evening in the distance. It is this silken blackness that eventually comes forward and envelops the speaker. He describes how when one is young, death seems like a far-off event, maybe even a comfort. It is always something to be worried about later. After reaching old age or simply the point of death, the comfort is no longer there. There is no hope, light, or chance of escaping. One's connection to the rest of the living world in the form of a tree has been severed and one's own agency taken from them. In the first lines of this piece, the speaker begins by stating that in the distance there is an evening coming in. It is far off at this point, but still within one's line of sight. This does not mean it cannot be seen or at least in theory understood. It quickly becomes clear that the evening is a symbol for death. It must traverse the fields to get to where the speaker is standing. There is a distance between them, perhaps one that will take a long time to navigate, but death cannot be avoided. So, death is inevitable and it cannot be avoided. Even if one was not aware of the metaphor at play, here this line is ominous. What exactly, one might ask, does it mean to see an evening never seen before? As the line relates to death, this phrase makes perfect sense. When one is finally forced to confront their final death, it will be for the first and only time. In the last line of the first stanza, he refers to the night as something which lights no lamps. There is no hope to be found in the darkness. It is total and without mercy. The next 3 lines begin with another description of what the evening looks like from a distance. It seems to be silken, as if it is a vague experience that could possibly bring comfort like a seat. As one ages, it becomes clear that this is not the case. Eventually, the seat of death is drawn up over the knees. It progresses over the breast and consumes one entirely. There is no comfort to be found in the darkness, or as the speaker stated in the first stanza, no light. The last four lines conclude the poem with a series of questions. There are three in total which seem to interrogate the reader. He is in an entirely different state to that depicted in the first lines. There used to be a connection in his life between the ground or solid human life and the ephemeral afterlife. The tree represented one's continued presence on the earth, and its disappearance is the cutting of a cord, signaling one's impending departure. In the last lines, he refers to a weight on and below his hands. Whatever this is, whether his own life, the entirety of his experiences, or just death itself, he is unable to move. His hands, which were the extensions of his own consciousness, have become paralyzed. It gets at the biggest question one might wonder about death. He is asking what death actually is, how it works, and incidentally, how he is supposed to deal with it. There is no answer to this question, as at this point, his connection to the earth has been cut and he is on his own journeying into the dark evening. So, this is the summary of the poem, and in my next video, I will explain this poem. Thanks for watching this video, and you should enjoy this video.